Hey there, Joey again. Today I want to share with you a little project that I did to test out another kind of make your own gear sort of project. I have been experimenting with different stoves, and one I really like is the Esbit stove. It comes in a little box like this, and it is a pocket stove. I can actually show you the stove I have. It's right here. It's pretty dirty, but it just folds up. It's about the size of a deck of cards, and you open it up and it sets this way, and you can put your stove on top. And very lightweight, easy to use stove, doesn't require carrying a fuel canister. So I really like it based on size and its ability. It will heat using an Esbit fuel cube. It will heat 500 milliliters of water in about 8 minutes. So it's pretty efficient, not the fastest that's out there on the market, but pretty efficient little stove. The downside, for me at least, is the fuel cubes that it uses. These have a chemical in them. I can't remember the name of it. If I do, I'll put it down below so you can see. But these things stink to high heaven. They are nasty, at least to my nose. And I thought, I don't know if I want to carry these around. And they also are fairly expensive. For me on the trail, I would use one for dinner, and then if I had a little bit left over, maybe half of one in the morning. And you can't blow it out if you don't use the whole thing and reuse it. But so I would need about 1.5 cubes a day, and they run about, on average, 60 to 75 cents a piece, depending on whether you buy them in volume or not. So the Esbit cubes are a little on the expensive side, especially if you're doing a through hike. And I was also told by a woman that works at REI who did a through hike a couple of years ago that these can be a little bit hard to find on the trail. They're not quite as easy or to find or as common as, say, denatured alcohol if you're using an alcohol stove, or a fuel canister if that's your stove of choice. So not sure how these would work out on the trail. I think I would probably have to be prepared to put some in a resupply box. So I was looking for some alternative options, less chemicals, less stink, less expense. So got the idea from some sites, some YouTube videos that I saw online of doing a wax fuel cube made with wax and a little cotton ball. Another advantage of these is that they are lighter. They only weigh about 6 grams a piece for the size that I made, which is about half of a jumbo cotton ball. And the Esbit cubes are about 14 grams a piece, I think, if I calculated correctly. So a little bit more expensive to carry. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you the process that I went through to make them, and then at the end of the video I can show you my field test, and I'll let you know what my verdict was, whether I'm gonna be taking these on the trail, or these, or possibly a different type of stove. I've made a simple double boiler. I don't have one handy in my kitchen. I do have a broken pot that needs a new handle, but I've got a little bit of water here in this one pot, and the other one we can just set inside, and that will make a very simple little double boiler that I can melt my candles. So I have cut up the candles in little pieces. I did this partly so it would melt faster, but also because there's wick in there, and that wick will be taken up into different pieces of my little fuel cubes, so that will be handy rather than having one long piece of wick floating around inside the wax. I've got one more candle to cut up here, and then I'm going to go ahead and put this into my pot to start melting. Now, I would recommend probably not using your favorite knife. You will be able to get the wax off, but it could be a little bit of a challenge. All right, that's ready to go. Okay, now my water is heating up, and I've got my wax all ready to go in, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just drop this right into the pot. Let it start melting, and I will stir it with, probably going to use just a little silicone stirrer that should clean up pretty easily. I'm gonna turn the temperature down. I had this on high to get the water hot. Here you can see this is melting pretty quickly. I'm pretty happy with the pace that's going at. I certainly don't want to get it too hot and burn the wax, or I don't know if wax boils, but don't want to overheat it. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, but while I do that, I'm also going to get my parchment paper out and set that up with the cotton balls so that I'm ready to dip everything as the wax heats up. All right, I have my parchment paper out, and I'm going to get out some cotton balls, and I've seen this done a number of ways. I've seen some people throw all the cotton balls into the pot and just kind of stir it all up and then pull them out. I've seen other people dip. I'm not sure what's going to work best, so I'll give it a try both ways. Okay, I have 15 or so cotton balls here. They're a little bit large and some of them are kind of lumpy, so I think what I'm going to do is actually take a few of them, maybe 5 of them, and cut them in half so that I can make a little bit of a smaller fuel cube, and then I'll actually have 2 sizes. I'll have the full-size ones and then the smaller ones that I'm going to make. All right, that's done. I've got 10 full-size ones and 10 smaller ones. These will be good, I think, for just heating up enough water to make coffee in the morning. And in my pot, I have a candle and a half. So I'm not sure how many cotton balls it's going to do, but we will find out in just a minute. Okay, now the wax is all melted and ready to go. You may be able to see those little pieces of wick that are floating in there. They're not going to get into every little fuel cube that I'm going to make, but they'll pick up on some and help them burn. So let's go ahead and get the cotton balls that we have set up here put into the pot and see what happens. All right, I am ready to go. I've got my wax all melted, and I'm going to take a few of these cotton balls. These are ones that I cut in half, and as I mentioned, I wanted to try just dropping a bunch in and seeing what happens before I just dip individually. So I'm going to go ahead and plop those in there and stir them around just a little bit. They're soaking up the wax very nicely. And then I just have some simple tongs here, and I'm going to pull these out, let a little bit of the wax drip off, and place that on my parchment paper. Now it's sticking a bit, so I'm just going to use the spatula to pull it off before it hardens up on me. That actually is looking like a very good size for a little fuel cube. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and take those other cotton balls and cut them in half as well. Now I am at the very end of this process. I was just actually sopping up the very end of the wax in my pan. It's still warm, so it's almost transparent, but don't want to have a lot of wax to clean out the pan. So I took a couple of full-size cotton balls and have done those just to get up the rest of that. And I wanted to point out that this silicone, you can see the tongs there have a lot of wax on them, but the silicone scraper doesn't have any wax at all. So it has actually turned out to be very good for not only stirring the wax, but also scooping up and patting these down if you're picky about the shape that they end up in. They're just kind of little fuel nuggets, if you want to call it that. So those are ready to go. And another tip that you might not be aware of is how do you get wax out of the pan or off your utensils. You might be tempted to put it into hot water and wash it off that way, but actually if you stick it in the freezer for a few minutes, that wax will harden up and it'll come right off. So easy tip for cleaning those utensils. So I wanted to try these in the real world, and I had the chance to go camping with my brother, sister, and sister-in-law over Eclipse weekend. We had a great time, did a little bit of hiking in the Nantahala area, camped out, brought the puppies, those are my brothers, and that's my little mutt, and cooked up a lot of good food. But what I learned with this was that it was very, very smoky. Of course, it was a windy day, but it created a lot of smoke and soot on my pot that I had to clean. It actually took a little bit longer to get the water to boil than I expected that it would. Slightly longer than the Esbit cubes, not a whole lot longer, maybe 9-10 minutes to get 2 cups of water to boil. Worked out great to create a hot drink, but definitely a little bit more messy to clean up. So I think they'd be great in an emergency, but not an everyday type of fuel cube for me. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to share your comments below. I'll see you on the trail.